We're live. Yeah, and I'll get this over to you. I'll edit it and get this over to you. Hey, what's going on,
Awesome,
guys?
man.
James Williams here, and you are a part of the Surrender Conversation. And this series of conversations that I'm having with some people who I feel like are very important to me, and also important to this book. And so, for those who may or may not know, I have a book coming out, and it's called Season of Surrender, and it basically chronicles the last 3 years of me going through sickness, getting fired, getting married, living life, being a father. But I basically break it down into 4 sections: purpose, masculinity, life, and love. And so today we're going to focus a little bit on purpose. And I got a guest for you with this particular conversation. I'm super excited to introduce my man, Glenn Johnson. Glenn, we'll let you talk to the people and tell them a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get started with the conversation.
Yeah, awesome, man. Well, listen, first of all, I appreciate you inviting me on to your platform. Really excited about the conversation and all the things that we'll uncover together. So first and foremost, I'm a husband and a father. I've been married to my wife, my beautiful wife, for 12 years. We have three beautiful children ranging from the ages of 5 to 13 years old, and so we stay busy. I'm blessed to be a minister of the gospel. I serve at one church, ATL, and there and just overall, I have a real passion for teaching God's word and really helping people find clarity and understanding in the scripture, not only for head knowledge so that it can help bring them closer in their walk and their relationship with God. From a professional standpoint, I work at Chick-fil-A at the support center. I've been there for 4 years, and I have the pleasure of being a people leader, leading people who are in the technology space as we support the restaurants and their technology needs. And leadership is also a passion of mine, just really helping people find their purpose, connect that to their passion, and then also become the best versions of themselves. And so that's just been really exciting. And then for the past year, I've been on this social media journey, trying to grow my social media platform, not for personal reasons, but really just to continue to get the message out there, help people grow spiritually and mature more again in their walk with Christ. And so that's been really exciting to me up until this point. So again, really excited to be here and have this opportunity, man, to connect with you.
Gotcha, man. I appreciate that intro. I couldn't have did that no better. You definitely covered yourself. So Glenn, in my book, man, Season of Surrender, I talk about purpose, but not from the standpoint of what it is you do, but from the separation piece of a lot of times we as men equate our purpose with a title that was given to us. And so the title of our job title, our you know what I'm saying, the role that we're assigned, I use assigned roles. So I try to separate purpose from being the standpoint of something that we do. In your opinion, how do you view purpose when it comes to men?
I mean, I think that's a great conversation. I mean, for me, when I think about purpose, honestly, I don't relegate it to men or to women. I mean, I have a pretty succinct thought process about purpose, and it's simply that I believe that all of our purposes, whether you're a believer or not, and the way that God created us, is to glorify Him. He created each and every one of us for His glory, and that's simply so that something can be made known about Him, about His character, about His attributes. But then I shift that to calling, because I believe that all of our purpose is the same, but I believe that we all have different callings, and our callings are those unique talents, skills, and abilities that God has given us in order to fulfill our purpose. And I'm gonna talk about calling just for a little bit, but I want to talk about the third thing, and that's assignment.
Mm-hmm.
Assignment, that's the temporary things that we do in our lives. These things only last for a season. So it could be your job. It could be the fact that you're a parent. These are assignments. And to your point, it could be a husband. It could be a father. It could be a businessman. And many times, if we're talking about men, we equate our assignment with our calling. And because we don't understand calling, when our assignments end, we become devastated because we have bucketed all of our purpose, all of our meaning, all of our identity into this temporary assignment. And so with calling, though, calling is one of those things you could do anywhere, right? You don't have to say, well, I have to have a certain job, because your calling could be teaching, where you love making difficult things simple. You enjoy helping people understand truth. It could be leadership, where you have a natural ability to cast vision and to organize people. It could be encouragement. It could be shepherding, evangelism. I mean, and the list goes on. But these are gifts that God has put down on the inside of us that allow us to point everything back to Him. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's my thought process.
No, it gets it in the vein of kind of where I was leading. And I guess the point that I was making is I got fired. I got fired in October of 2025
Okay.
from Voorhees University. And there was about a 2-week period where the previous 15 years I was preparing for a season, right? I was coach. And then now you got this 2-week period before I found another coaching job where I didn't know what was going to happen, because I was no longer coach. Meaning, and it goes back to what you just said, I assumed that coach meant that I would be a part of a university, high school, or team. I would have some
Come on
people to
now.
lead, right? And so I was
Yeah.
lost. There was a gap there where I was lost, and I felt like because I wasn't leading a team that I didn't have purpose. Like I just, from that lost feeling. So when you just said what you said about calling, and had I had the perspective that I have now from writing this and going through the process of healing myself from that, I would have seen that I could mentor young men or be a part of young men's lives anywhere, anytime, right? I didn't need basketball to be called a coach. And so that was a realization that I got, after I ended up I ended up getting on staff at another school. But it was just during that process where I was lost for that 2-week period. It was a 2-week period where it was like, who am I? I'm not coaching more, but I lost who James Williams was all those years of being a coach. My identity became Coach J, and it wasn't James C. Williams. So I guess speak to that a little more, as oftentimes, the thing that's underneath our name on our business card is who we think we are, right? Like,
Right.
I'm
Right.
CEO or I'm regional director. Like those things are who we are, but what I found is that that's not who I am. That's just a title that was assigned to me by the particular organization that I chose to be a part of.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think that's great that you were able to come to a place where you realized that, and you were able to see that, because a lot of people don't. Even after this conversation, there are going to be many people who still can't connect the dots, and it's so valuable to understand, because when we place our identity, the essence of who we are in frivolous, fragile things, then we set ourselves up for failure every time, because inevitably those things are going to break down. Jobs are going to end. Relationships are going to end. And if we don't have the wherewithal to understand that that does not equal who we are, then it's going to be a long road for us. And of course, for all of us, we were created in the image of God. We are God's image bearers, and that's really where it all starts. And so for a long time, that's where I was. Like, I believe that our society, I believe culture, from the time that you're young, starts ingraining these things and these ideas in us as we grow up, and we understand what our parents do and how people view us based on what jobs we have and what accolades we have. And then our parents, in many cases, you're going to go to school and you got to get good grades, and all of it, our identity and how people view us is connected to the things that we do, how successful we are or how unsuccessful we are. And for a long time, I was chasing that corporate dream. My goal was to continue to rise up the corporate ladder, manager, director, senior director, VP, as high as I could get. And the reality is, the reason why I was doing it wasn't because it would help me add more value. It was because of pride. Really,
Yeah.
it was because
Wow.
of ego. It was because I wanted people to view me in a certain way. I wanted to be a part of certain conversations. Again, not necessarily only to have impact, but so that I could feel like somebody. And so, we may get into it further into the conversation, but when you talk about surrender, that's that's where the rubber meets the road, because surrender means dying to myself, right? I'm not so worried about what other people think and what other people believe. And once I can shed that, then the road becomes clear. And
Clear.
I'm less concerned about, again, title and how people view me in my role in life.
Well, I want to explore that word pride. Talked about that, and I kind of mentioned in the book, but it wasn't in depth. And I love that you, like I said, this is an organic conversation. So as you come back to me, it's like I'm thinking and pride. The book shifts its focus towards men, but we all deal with pride, men and women. But I wrote this for the man who does, I ain't gonna say, yeah, who struggles with that, right? And we live, and I know you're in the social media space now. Can you talk about how, for you, separating what culture, social media says, and pride, and how that impacts you, and how you see that impact other men, like pride and social media in that space?
Well, yeah, I mean that's a great question, man. Because I think I mean you wrote a book, but I see you're on social media as well, and it's when you think about yourself as a content creator,
Yeah,
there's this term, small content creator, which I would say that's the realm that I'm in as I'm trying to grow my platform. And so it becomes easy, right, to begin to compare yourself to other people, like wondering, man, my content is just as good or if not better than some of these other people, yet they have more views, they have more followers, they have more success. And so it really all boils down though to the reason why you're doing it. And so, I mean, I'm always going to come from the standpoint of a believer, right? So it's always that battle, right, between the spirit and the flesh. And so it's real easy for all of us, believer or not, to, fall over into the realm of the flesh and begin to feel, jealousy and pride and envy. And if we're not constantly renewing our mind and, focusing on the things of God, then we will fall into that and it will eat us up from the inside out. And so I'm not gonna say I've struggled with it, but it's definitely things that have popped into my mind, right? And I have to remind myself, well, what is the reason why you're doing this, right? Is it for you, or
mm-hmm.
is it to glorify God? Is it for you, or is it to help other people grow spiritually, right? As a minister, and I know you've shared messages and delivered the word, and so people will always say, as long as one person gets it, that's
Yeah,
all that matters,
yeah.
right? And so it's kind of the
I'm
same
guilty.
thing when you're
I'm guilty.
putting things out in social media. As long if somebody's getting it, right? And I may not get all of the comments and all of the likes, but I do get it. Man, thank you, man. That blessed me. Thank you. I needed that. And so I think it really depends on what your focus is. Last thing I'll say is that when you think about the word pride, right? Pride, at the center of pride is the letter I, is
Wow,
I,
I
right?
never
And
said
so
that.
pride just focuses everything back on you, and then it extends into ego. And I heard somebody say that ego is also stands for edging God out. And
Yeah,
so we want to be in full control of our lives again, because we are concerned about what other people think, and want to be seen in the highest esteem. And if we surrender and we lose control, then we lose the ability to kind of shape our lives in the way that we see that we think it should be.
man, that's powerful. Glenn, say that again, because I want to make sure when I click this up, the pride and the ego. I think that was important enough to be repeated. Can you break that down again?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, when you think about the word pride, Pride, and you look at it, at the center is the letter I, and that I means that pride is all about me. It's all about I, and when we put that weight on ourselves, then what we're doing is, when we think about God, we think about the Creator. We're also relying on our ego, and ego is really edging God out. So we've gotten to this place where, because I'm focused on me, that I want to be at such control of my life. And now I'm no longer concerned about what God has to say. So I push him out of my life. I don't allow myself to be surrendered to him, so that I can have full control, because I need to make sure that I'm able to achieve the things that I want to achieve, that I'm able to do the things that I want to do, that I'm able to focus on the things that I want to focus on, focusing on that I in the middle of pride. And until we die to ourselves,
Yes. Yeah.
then that's it's going to be this vicious cycle that we're going to find ourselves in.
And the reason why I wanted you to repeat that, because you used another word that's super important in my book, and that's the word control. I talk a lot about how my process of when I was the head coach, I was the key decision maker. And there was a moment to where, of course, again, I'm going back to when I got fired, I didn't have control. I didn't have control over me getting fired. I didn't have control over what was happening next. And all along, I built my identity on being in control. And when you talk about pride and when you use the word I a lot, what happens is I think it's ironic that you said this in this order. Again, I had questions, but like I said, Glenn, I picked you for a specific reason, like your ability to weave in and out. Control. We as men, we place a huge emphasis on control to our detriment a lot of times. And so when you talk about surrender, that is the opposite of control, because when you surrender, mean you give up, right? That's the definition of surrender. So talk about that as it relates to men and how we have this desire to like be so focused on outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, again, it goes back to some of the things that we talked about earlier. I mean, it's ingrained in us from a early standpoint. But I think when you even think about our human makeup and our neurological system, right? I know you've heard of the amygdala. Some people call it the AMY. Fear, fight or flight. Like, I think all of it goes back to like this thing, like fear, like I need to be in control, because the outcomes that happen if I'm not at the wheel could be detrimental to maybe my existence, maybe my health, again, maybe to the things that how I see my life unfolding. And so we can kind of talk about control, but I think a big part of that is fear, because when I'm in this place of uncertainty and I'm not sure what the outcome is going to be, then I've got to be the one to make the decisions a lot of times, because I trust myself more than I may trust other people. Then again, if we take it into the spiritual realm, I trust myself more than I trust God, right? Because again, of fear. And I'm in this place of where, man, I really don't want to suffer. I don't like pain. And if you're a believer, that you understand that sometimes God will take you through low seasons to build patience and perseverance in you, so that those things can have its perfect work. Well, you know what? If I can avoid that, I don't want to do that, God. So I'm going to take the wheel so that I can maneuver around the things that are going to cause me pain, that I feel that are going to cause me sorrow. They're going to, I know you told me to quit this job, but I'm not going to do that. If I do, I don't know where my money's going to come from, and I may miss a meal. If I miss a meal, I'm not going to die, but I don't want that for my life, right? And so I've got to be the one in control, because if I am, then I have the ability to call the shots. And as men, I think the stakes become even higher, because if you are a man who has a family, right, now you're no longer thinking about just thinking about yourself. Right. You're thinking about the livelihood of your family, the safety and comfort of your kids. And so the more things that are out of your control, then the more uncertainty there is. And the more that, again, sometimes God sends these things to you, not to kill you, but to make you stronger. But all you see is fear and death and uncertainty. So I need to be at the wheel. So that's how I see it.
Do you think that it's easy? So, because when you write a book, right? So the thing I tell people continuously is, I'm not answering any questions. Like I'm not trying to be a guru. I'm not trying to be anyone's savior. I have more questions than I do answers. But I also know that a lot of times when people read something, they think, oh, you got it all together. So I do repeatedly talk about how this is something that's daily for me. And I think control as a man is one of those things where we're looked at a certain way, like you talked about the what we're the biology of us, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
also what's put in us by the conditions in which we're raised in and grow up in and learning our biases. And control is one of those things to where it's like, yo, if you can't get it done, I know I can get it done. But when it comes to our spirituality and matters that make sense, the it's so crazy that you just said that. Turning it over to somebody who is the ultimate creator. It's so foreign, but it's so hard. Like like you would think that it would be like what you just said, like it's God, He created it, so we could give it back to Him. But because of the duality of us knowing what good and evil is, like we have this side that wants to do good, but we also have this side that also wants to do bad. So we end up like hoarding things that we should not even have to hoard, which is a part of the purpose. Like your title was something that was given to you by God. It wasn't something for you to own. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, how do we as a body talk about it in the way that you just said, to where it doesn't seem like it's just something that we could just do? Because we all don't wave the white flag, right? We all try to control. We all try to hold on to something that wasn't ours. From your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just have to acknowledge the truth of it. Like all of us, no matter our walk in life, we all deal with it in some shape, form, or fashion, right? So that's why I love what you're doing, like creating this space where people can be vulnerable and bring it all to the forefront, because it's not something that's gonna change and happen overnight. But the first thing is I have to acknowledge, yes, I because you'll have this conversation with some people about a lot of different things, and they'll say, "Well, no, I'm not prideful. No, I'm not a control freak." But nobody's saying that these things are done to the maximum. Pride doesn't have to look like being boastful. Pride can be as simple as, I'm going to do this myself. I'm not going to turn it over to
Mm-hmm.
God.
Yeah.
Control doesn't have to be, I have a type A personality. Control can simply be, I know God told me to do X, Y, and Z. I have no doubt in my spirit or in my mind, but I'm not gonna do that, right? And so we all deal with it. So I think bringing it to the forefront, placing it on the table, and now when we talk about as men, I have the pleasure of leading the men's ministry at One Church ATL, and key verse, Proverbs, iron sharpens iron. Now we have the ability to help each other see and to help each other grow, and to be able to ask questions like, hey, if you feel like God told you to do this and you don't want to do it, what's the worst thing that can happen? Why are you afraid of
Yeah.
this particular outcome? And I think through habit and through conversation, and we can get to a place where we start to relinquish control more and start to surrender more. I tell people all the time, this is my struggle, right? As I grow in my faith, I mean, my goal is to grow so mature in my faith that when I hear God speak, I move. But I tell people, like, right now, if I was Abraham, then I would not be the father of many nations, because God would have said, "Go to a land that I will show you." And I said, "No, God, I don't think I'm gonna do that today. I need to, I need to know what the plan is. I need
Yeah.
to know kind of what I'm walking into, right?" But He wants to get us to a place where when He says go, that we just move, because we understand that anything that He has for us is better than anything that we could ever create on our own. It's better than anything that we could ever
Right.
desire. But
Right.
again, yeah, like you've been saying, we trust ourselves more than we trust the creator of the universe, the creator of everything. And so we've got to get to a place where we understand he's got it.
So for the next few seconds, let's reach back a little bit to our younger selves in this generation, right? We're middle-aged men who look at the 1920 25-year-olds, what do we tell them about their ability to surrender before they get to our station in life? What would you say to that young brother who could be watching, who is hearing something and he's not necessarily sure about the move? He doesn't necessarily, he may or may not have all the faith, because that's what it takes to surrender more than anything else. But like, what would you tell that young brother who's listening? Because I don't want to think just because I'm 44 that I got all the answers, because I know if I would have had this at 20, my life would have been a lot different. Or 25, being that I was, talking and knowing people like you at that age. What would you say to that young brother?
Yeah, and I apologize. I have a dog, and I hear the dog
Well, you
barking. I don't
good,
know if it's coming across,
Glenn?
but
This is so
yeah,
we low key here, Glenn. This we organic, we grown, we homegrown.
okay,
It's nothing
yeah,
polished.
yeah. Well, what I would tell that brother, I mean, I often think about this myself, and so I think for a lot of us, we enter into this space of like immediate gratification, right? That's the culture that we live in. Anything that we want, we can have it quickly, right? And we connect that to our joy and to our peace and to our satisfaction. And so, like thinking back, like man, I wasted a lot of time. Right there are things that I would have done different. There are investments of time and learning that I would have done different. That if I
Right.
could project myself from 1920 to today, if I would have just taken just a little extra time to do this or to do that, then I would have been a lot further along. But no, I left it up to my devices and my choices and my decisions. And maybe if I had, and I had great people in my life, but maybe if I had, different mentors and I had, again, invested more time in learning, then it would have solidified, like some of the things that I'm chasing today,
Yes,
I
sir.
may have already had I just slowed down back then. And so what I would tell them is that, you think what it's going to look like 20 years from now, but the
Mm-hmm.
reality is you don't. Right? When you think about the creator, he's the author of everything, right? The Bible says he is the alpha and omega, the beginning and the end. He sees the end from the beginning, and so he already knows what the end of the story that we're trying to write. And so although we'll try to avoid it, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. We're going to fall in a lot of pitfalls. And so why not just slow down, you know, consult God and let him give you direction. Surrender your life to him, because the story is already written and he knows how to get you from point A to point Z better than you could ever know. And so, yeah, you got to die to yourself. You got to relinquish the pride, and you've got to relinquish the fear and allow your faith to be greater than your fear. At the end of the day, for all of us, that's what it is. That fear is greater because with faith we have doubt. Like, man, is that really God telling me that? Is that really what He wants me to do? That's not a decision that I would make, and so we allow fear to overtake us. And I would say, just try as much as you can to quiet the fear,
Yeah.
and just trust that what God has in store for you, he's what does the Bible say? He who has begun a good work in you is faithful to complete it, and so he's gonna take you all the way to the finish line.
So quiet the noise and increase the faith, and to believe. Quiet the noise and believe.
Hey man, if I had to put that in AI or something to say, man, summarize what I just said, that's it right there.
I got you.
What you just said: quiet the noise and increase the faith.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
All
a
right.
that's
So
a t-shirt right there.
so we'll wrap up. I'll ask two questions to close. First question: I know your heart for God, Glenn, and I know your heart for God's people. There's unbelievers that may pick up this book who don't know anything about Jesus, don't want to hear about Jesus, don't know about Jesus. And of course, we're talking about purpose in the realm of surrender. What would you say to that unbeliever? So we talked to the general man, the young man. What do you say to that unbeliever who doesn't believe that he was created with the purpose? What would you say to that person? And I'll follow up with the last question to close.
Well, that's a good deep question, man. The person that does not believe that they have purpose. I mean, I would appeal to their reason and their higher reasoning, and just say, if you look at the world that we live in, the reality is nobody has been able to have any type of success on their own by themselves, right? All of us and everybody for generations have had to lean on the backs and lean on the shoulders of other people. And that means that everybody that everybody has interacted with has had some type of purpose, some type of meaning, because we've all been able to help each other, even if it's to the smallest degree. I would say to them, you don't know how many times I've said something that seemed so simple, and somebody came back to me, years later and said, man, what you said changed my life. I'm like, what? Hey, what did I say? And so all of us, as we're interacting, we are changing people's lives. There are things that we're doing, things that we're saying, people that are watching us that we don't even know that are watching us. All of us have purpose. And because of that, if you care at all, because of that, you never know who you're going to come in contact with. And you should always be trying to be the best version of yourself, so you could have the maximum impact on all people. You got to believe that you have purpose. No, you don't believe in God, but God put purpose in your heart, and you probably feel it, because for all of us there is a God-sized hole in our heart. The Bible says He has put eternity in our hearts, and so I would say, search that feeling, but know, whether you know it or not, you matter. The things that you do matter, and you're having an impact whether you realize it or not.
Man, thank you, Glenn. We'll close with this right here. This is my pivotal question. What does a surrendered man look like to you?
Man, you coming with the heavy hitters, man. That's good. That's a good question. What does a surrendered man look like to me? I think a surrendered man is one who puts God first in everything, right? One who leans tightly into the spiritual disciplines, meaning that he's studying his word, which is part of renewing your mind. He's praying, he's fasting, because he understands that his connection with God is the key to his success. And not only that, that his connection to God is the key to everything that he's searching after. Many times, all the things that we do, we're trying to find satisfaction and happiness and joy. But the Bible tells us that in God's presence is the fullness of joy, and at his right hand are pleasures forevermore. Everything that we're looking for, we find it in him. And so I think that a surrendered man is one that realizes that, and because he has died to himself, when he's got to make a decision, he's seeking after wisdom from the Father before he seeks after wisdom from his friends. I think that a man that is surrendered has learned, as we see in Ephesians, to love his wife like Christ loves the church. I always say, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Many times when you read those passages, people are like, well, my wife should obey me, and we're waiting for her to obey us before we
Yeah.
will love her in the way that we're supposed to. But I think it's the other way around. I think once we begin to love our wives, for those that are married, like Christ loves the church, that gives her the comfort, the strength, and the ability to be obedient to us as we follow Christ. I think that a man that's surrendered realizes that, and is slow to anger in his relationships when things don't go his way, because he's
Right, right.
leaning on the Father, and understanding that we have emotion, and emotions are real, but emotions are not always a true indicator of what's going on in the situation. And so he's able to allow the Spirit of God that's on the inside of him to lead, and not allow his flesh and his emotions to lead him in life. And so I think that you will find a surrendered man like Jesus was, waking up early in the morning, and praying. And a surrendered man like Jesus who said, Father, if it be your will, take this cup from me, but nevertheless, not my will, but your will. A surrendered man is always going to lessen himself to the will of God, no matter what that may be.
Man. Well, Glenn, man, I appreciate you so much for taking the time out your day to chat, man. When the book does come out on September 27th, you'll definitely get a copy of it, and I hope that you could at least give me your feedback, man. That's the only thing I ask. That's the payment that I ask, like real feedback, man. I wrote this book to share my story, but I also wrote it because I want to reclaim the word surrender for the kingdom. I really do want people to try Jesus. I really do. That's that shit like you said about we do this so much that trying Jesus causes you to open and you get so much more. But it's not until you try that happens. Like it's not until you really go through the process of surrender that you truly get the benefits of what the kingdom does hold for us. So man, I appreciate you. Man, you got some good stuff. I'm definitely some clippable things. I'll make sure you get all the little clips and the big video. Man, we thank you so much. You guys have just witnessed a surrender. I'm about to say season of surrender, a surrender conversation with Coach Jay. No, stop. This is a surrendered conversation with James C. Williams. And our guest tonight was Glenn Johnson. Thank you.
Yes. Can I say real quick? I appreciate James.